and I said, Dad, I respect you, but I gotta tell you, I'm not afraid of you anymore. And to sit holding hands on my psychiatric hospital bed after my 5th suicide attempt. And he said, son, I've never wanted you to be afraid of me. Son, I did everything that I could to guide and discipline you for what I thought you needed to make it in this world. And it all came from love, and whether you're a footballer, a bin man, whatever, I'm so proud of you. You know, you've got 2 big black men in tears. There was nothing unsaid, and we rebuilt a relationship. If I am going to go on an exploration of who I am, fundamentally at my core, what are my beliefs, what are my values, I've got to be prepared to get my knees dirty.
Yeah.
We have got to wade through shite to get there, and a lot of that shite can be incredibly emotional, incredibly triggering. What destroys men is the person that you are when you walk out there is wholly incongruent with that belief about who you want to be. I'm Clarke Carlisle. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a friend. I am the best version of those that I've ever been.
Every man carries something. Expectations, silence, struggles, the weight of having to look unbreakable. The Dad Project is a home for real, unfiltered conversations on men's mental health, the kind that have been missing for far too long. We share powerful stories and raw perspectives from those living it and those guiding men through it. Filmed at the Old Court in Windsor, it's about breaking silence, reshaping strength, and creating conversations that actually matter. I'm your host, Naroop Duty. Let's talk. Before we start, let me take 30 seconds and speak to you directly. This podcast exists to share real stories, honest conversations that inspire growth, self-belief, and meaningful change. If you get value from these episodes, following or subscribing is the easiest way to support what we're building here. It helps this reach more people who appreciate authentic conversation, and it allows us to keep creating stories like this. All right, thank you for being here. Now, into the episode. Clarke, as you sit here today, after all the things that you've been through, where do you think the most honest place is for us to start?
Oh, wow. What a brilliant opening question. The most honest place for us to start. There are 2 places. There are 2 places. The first place is the beginning, is little Clarke. Little Clarke who was just so enthusiastic, just wanted to know everything and gave all of himself. Because that was raw, unadulterated Clarke with no genuine attempts to control. The second place is here today, because I have never been as honest and open as this in my entire life since that point.
Who is the man sat here today opposite me?
This man sat in front of you today. I'm Clarke Carlisle. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a friend. I am the best version of those that I've ever been.
You know, a lot of time when people come on the podcast, I like to start from the beginning because it gives context. But you said something as we were setting up the cameras, which makes me want to break that idea and start here now. And you said,
break the mold. No, break the mold, Naroop.
But you said to me, people don't know who they are. Right?
Yeah.
Get to know who you are. And this last 6 months for me has probably been one of the most transformative times for me, because I can finally say, I know who I am, right? And life challenges us with certain things that forces us to do it. Whether we take that challenge or not is up to us, right? And I was having a conversation with a friend, and she was talking about soulmates. And I said, how can you be someone's soulmate if you don't know who you are, who your own soul is. You can't be a soulmate. And so many of us walk around wanting to find partners or relationships, business relationships, whatever. We don't know who we are. And so that sense of, I know who I am, is not only a good for yourself as a personal kind of standpoint, but it's also for business. It's also for relationships, for family, for your children. Because how can you lead in life if you don't know what car you're driving? Right?
I hear
It's
you.
like literally being in a car and like, where's the manual? I don't even know what this car is. I'm just kind of going along. But if I look around, I couldn't tell you the make and the model of it. I can tell you how much petrol I got in the tank. I can't tell you the last time it was serviced, but I'm driving it, and it could break down at any moment. And I think life is like that. With a lot of people just coasting and not knowing what they're actually in.
Knowing who you are is fundamental to being the best version of yourself, and having impact wherever you go. If you don't know who you are, then you're searching or looking to fit, and you don't know what shape the hole is that you fit in. You're looking to deliver with an ill or uninformed perspective of what your own strengths are and where you need support, where you need to lean on someone else's expertise, experience, etc. You're looking for relationships with an ideological version of what that relationship should be, rather than understanding what my relationship should be. And I've seen that play out through the entirety of my life. Clarke Carlisle, right up until 36, 37 years of age, was in love with the idea of being in love. So when I met a girl, a woman, whatever it was, I immediately wanted to be in love with that person, whether I was or not. We will go into that. We will go into that. In doing so, I tried to win and earn the love from the other person by giving everything of myself. And that's destined to fail. It's destined to fail because it's not an authentic connection. I don't know if I genuinely want to love that person. It's the notion of being in love that I'm striving for. And my metrics on whether that's the right relationship, they're a million miles off the mark. Compounded by the elite athlete mentality, which again we'll come to later, where if something's not perfect, if something is sullied, then it's finished, it's done, that's it, that's rubbish, it's on to the next one. So it's almost like a throwaway single serving mindset that I brought into those things. Now I've gone on at a tangent there. If I don't know who I am as a man in this world, then I can't walk outside of this room. I can't sit in this chair with any authenticity. I can't be me because I don't know what me is. So I'm going to navigate this conversation trying to present a version of me that I think is going to fit with what you think I am.
Yeah. Your background being a professional footballer, you've been through so much, and I know we're going to go into that. But the question I've been toying with a lot is, we both work in the men's mental health space. We know how important it is for men to heal, to grow, to empower themselves. But I struggle sometimes to answer the question when someone says, okay, Naroop, what are the steps I need to take to find myself? I struggle because I can only look back at my experiences, but then it's not that person's experiences. So usually I find myself saying, look, firstly, self-love is really important. Like, take care of yourself. Like, be proud of yourself as a person. Focus inward on yourself. And those are things like going to the gym, meditating, reading, spending time maybe in solitude for a bit, ask yourself certain questions, journaling. These are the kind of things that we know are important. And maybe the answer is a bit of everything. But this search for who I am is a profound question. But if someone was to ask you that, Clarke, I love what you're talking about. I really want to find myself. what was the first step you would tell them to do?
Brutal honesty with yourself. You make no progress if you're lying to yourself.
Mm.
There's no room for change, for evolution, for understanding if you are not going to be honest with yourself. What you've just spoken about there, Naroop, is, a large part of what you said there, that's not finding yourself.
Mm.
A large part of what you said there are actions, activities to build self-worth. They're actions to maintain a wellness or approach a happiness. That's not finding who you are.
Mm.
To find who I am, I have got to go right down to basics and break down my motivations and my desires.
Mm.
That's what I have to understand. And if I'm not honest about that, then I might as well stop looking.
Mm.
So I think the simplest way to start that process, and journaling can support in this, it is understanding the difference between need and want.
Mm.
We're propelled into so many actions in life, and it's like, I need this, I need to do this, I need to do that. When you boil it down, there are very few things that we need to do, especially as humans. Breathe, eat, all that stuff. But when you accept the fact that actually this is what I need to do, but I really want to do this, right? Now you're starting to make progress. I don't need to do it, I want to do it. So now, why do I want to do this?
Yeah.
What is this giving me that is so important that I've classified it as a need? That it's fundamental to me as a man, as a husband, in whatever it is that I'm doing. And if we lie to ourselves about that, we will not make any meaningful change in our lives. We will not have any kind of meaningful understanding of who we are.
Yeah.
If we're honest about that, then we can start to break down what it is that actions, relationships, interactions, job profiles, everything that we do, we can understand what it is that it's giving us that makes us either happy or contented, or more importantly, feel of worth and value.
Yeah. I love that. And you're right. Yeah, and I'm glad you pushed back on what I said to you, because I guess what I try to do when I speak to people is get them into a place where they feel comfortable enough to ask themselves those kind of questions.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's a scale of where a man is at. And sometimes to get them to the point where they can actually be honest with themselves, they've got to move up to the scale where they can prime themselves for the answer that they may hear, right? And sometimes the answers they have been avoiding their whole life. Hence, they put all these barriers up and distractions, because the minute they actually face the truth, it's going to take so much of them to then deal with that honesty, that they've got to be strong, right? Because if they haven't got that, some sort of routine or strength or whatever they might need to support themselves, that answer could break them.
Exactly.
And it can send them even further down a path that they might be down in a destructive way. And so I think having enough of a foundation of stability, of self-worth, of wellness and healing, they've done a level of healing, then to find the answer that they've been looking for, then they can build upon that. And then this new life can flourish.
This is why we've got to be very, cognizant of who we push down this road and how we push them down it.
Yes.
If I am going to go on an exploration of who I am fundamentally at my core, what are my beliefs? What are my values? But the extension of that is, where did they come from? Do they serve me today? Have I changed? Do I believe that's all part of the journey? But in understanding that, I've got to be prepared to get my knees dirty.
Yeah.
We have got to wade through shite to get there. And a lot of that shite can be incredibly emotional, incredibly triggering, because the reality will break. In fact, it will demolish some of our currently held concepts and beliefs about what's gone before. about our childhood, about our relationships, about the impact of parents, of family members, of spouses, about our genuine feelings and beliefs about our children. When you start to get into that, is dirty territory.
Yeah.
It really is. So, but the critical part of it is you have to go there to see it. If you can't see it and you can't accept this is the truth of me, then you can't adapt, change, adjust, evolve, grow from that truth to be the person who you want to be, who you believe you should be. And this is what destroys men. What destroys men is the person that you are when you walk out there is wholly incongruent with that belief about who you want to be, about the man I want to be, about the husband I want to be. But you know, when I got there, I need to do this, I need to do that. And it's like, it's death of 1,000 thoughts.
Yeah.
But you got to get dirty to get there.
I was having a conversation with my dad actually the other day. I've been reading this book and I said to him, I go, Dad, who are you?
Cool.
I said, who are you? And he was telling me all these things. Kept asking, like, ask him. I said, no, but who are you? And it's a lot of it is what I am. I said, who are you? Then I broke it down and I said, Dad, I've been reading this book called The Untethered Soul. And he said, when you really want to have a good understanding of yourself, you understand you are the observer of your thoughts. Right. And when you become the observer of your thoughts, you can then start to analyze your thoughts and understand where those thoughts come from. And it's basically what you were saying. Oh, I have reacted like this, or I'm thinking this because of this and this and this.
Yes.
This is not 45-year-old Naroop's thoughts. These are thoughts from when I was 21, when I went through that happened. That's that guy now flaring up and thinking about this situation. I'm reacting based on how I was 20 years ago. And I thought that's a really beautiful way of understanding, because when you can become the observer of your thoughts, then you can check yourself, say, no, that's not me now. That's that dude. So you can separate it, and that's a really liberating, a freeing feeling, because then you almost step away from it. And when you can call out your emotions and feelings and your behaviors, and you can check yourself, you can walk into them, like you said, and you know who you are, and you don't have to worry, because you are your own. You're checking yourself. It doesn't matter. And there's no one else to have to do that for you. You don't need it. And then I was watching a video yesterday and this guy said, true confidence is knowing you'll never truly be understood. There's no one in this world who could ever truly understand you. How can they? You're viewing reality based on your experiences, values, beliefs. There's no one else who shares exactly what you share. So how could you ever truly be understood? But true confidence is saying, I am me. I know no one will fully ever know who I am and understand me, but that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with that.
It's okay.
I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm. That acceptance is critical.
Yeah.
It's critical to all of us as humans. And you just made me laugh and internally laugh and smile when you said you asked your old man, who are you? Mate, I would have been checked with that question. I'll show you who I am. But that again is a historical version of my father. One that had a significant impact on me, and my versions of masculinity, who I knew I did and didn't want to be when I grew up, and watching my father evolve as a human and as a man, and then our relationship change, which came off the back of trauma, a conversation in a psychiatric hospital bed. They've got this 6'5", absolute monster of a man, not just physically, but psychologically in my mind. Wow. Dad's the behemoth. He's the beast who's shadowed over me all my life. And to sit holding hands on my psychiatric hospital bed after my 5th suicide attempt, where I got to that point of brutal honesty. I was fed up of hiding, of not saying, of not sharing, all of these thoughts that were going in my head. And I said, Dad, I respect you, but I gotta tell you, I'm not afraid of you anymore. And he said, son, I've never wanted you to be afraid of me. So, Dad, but what was all that? Son, I did everything that I could to guide and discipline you for what I thought you needed to make it in this world. And it all came from love. And whether you're a footballer, a bin man, whatever, I'm so proud of you. At that moment, woof, you know, you've got two big black men in tears, puddles of dairy milk on a psychiatric hospital bed. But that moment where you talk about watersheds, from there, my father and I, there was nothing unsaid, and we rebuilt a relationship from that moment. We will go into that in much greater detail, but just to come back to your point of being the observer of your own thoughts and how transformational that is, it's transformational because once you become the observer of your own thoughts and you are cognizant of that, you have agency.
Yeah.
And this is what brought me to suicide attempts, repeated depressive episodes, because I felt hopeless. I felt it was futile. I felt that this was my brain and there was bugger all I could do about it. So I was going to repeatedly let my wife down, let my kids down, embarrass my parents. I was like, I will never get out of this. So why should I put them through it? Why do I even bother? But that was because I didn't know how much control I have here and here. You know, thoughts will happen, but when you can be the observer of your thoughts and you choose how to react, how to respond, how to address the second thought, the agency in that, the power is immense. Because when you do it repeatedly and deliberately, you construct new ways of thinking. And it's the new way of thinking that you are embedding in your psyche that becomes your auto response once the momentum shifts.
Yep.
And it's the new way that becomes your first thought.
Yep.
So once your first thought is in this new vein of thinking, but you're still your observer of your thoughts, that then allows you to go a layer deeper.
Yeah.
And a layer deeper. So it took maybe 2 years for me to stop my first thought being catastrophic and being, dysfunctional. I'm now 9 years since, and my first thoughts are they're incredibly helpful. You know, they are positive, productive in the most part. But now, as I observe them, I'm on that level. I'm like, right, I'm actually addressing nominal daily life as opposed to existential daily life. Yeah. And when you can do that and you can operate on a level of insight that talks about I quieten the noise about that crisp packet that's just lodged there under the table. You know, where historically it's like, Clarke, you're messy. Look, you can't even do that. Where I'm like, are you going to leave that until the morning? I'm like, no, I'm not. Why am I not going to do that? Because I can just do it now. And I can release hooks in the moment, because for me as a ruminator and an overthinker, the more things that I leave, the louder my head becomes. And it starts with a small, just do it now. Why just do it now? Because that relieves me, my bandwidth and my capacity to deal with the big hook. Yeah, I always go off on these tangents.
No, I love that.
But it starts there. It starts with that authority that you can take over your mind.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change overnight.
It doesn't.
This is where I think a lot of people fall down, because we have built up our auto response over decades and decades. So you're talking about, you know, you're thinking as 45-year-old. There's 4.5 decades of action and reaction, that have subconsciously, consciously brought you to this point. So just because you take the decision now, I'm going to change that, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen tomorrow. You immediately break into the new. We have got to deliberately check ourselves to this new way of thinking. And one day will become 1 week, and 1 week will become 1 month of consciously saying, that first thought's not what I want. I'm going to input this one as a second thought. And then there comes a point where the momentum of your new thinking is almost equal to the old one.
Yeah.
And then one day, this momentum is quicker.
Yeah.
Starts as a drip, becomes a stream, and then this becomes the cascading river of your thoughts.
Yeah. I love that. And actually, it's so funny how you can reprogram your mind, right?
Yes.
So
Neuroplasticity, they
because
call it.
I've been listening to a lot of like devotional music. I'm Indian, so it's part of our culture. We call it
Okay.
Kirtan, right? But it's like devotional music. And as I've been going, I've been listening to it quite a lot. And I do it through my meditation. So morning and night. And I'll listen there, I'll sit there and I'll listen. And there's a way for me to start the day powerfully, but also end it powerfully.
Mhm.
And it's my body's way of just releasing and quietening and creating space. And then last weekend, I had a really bad temperature, right? So it came on in the middle of the night and I was in and out of sleep, this broken sleep. But subconsciously, I heard that Kirtan, that devotional music, I could hear it playing in my mind. So my brain was saying it to calm my body. I could hear it. And I was like, this is so crazy that. And the next morning I woke up and I thought, how interesting is it that my brain is now going to that place when it wants to relax and calm the body?
Yeah.
Because now I've programmed it to focus on things which create peace for it, rather than me thinking about random thoughts and keeping me awake. It's trying to soothe me.
Yeah.
And that's repeated patterns that I've started to reprogram into my mind. That's not the old Naroop wouldn't have been like that at all. But I just found it a really fascinating self-observation that what I'm doing consciously is now impacting my mind and my body subconsciously.
And this is why and how so many people get so deep in their addictive behaviors, maladaptive coping strategies. This is the power of our subconscious mind. So Clarke at 14 years of age is going through everything he's going through at home, and he finds that having a bottle of cider on the park with his mates gives him a freedom of thought and a liberation of responsibility, a quietening of the mind that is like nothing he's ever felt before. And that's the first time that I find alcohol as a coping strategy. So as I continually engage with alcohol, it's off the back of usually something that's gone on, and I'll go to that. But the power of the mind, see, that our mind tries to protect us. It tries its very best to protect us, and that's why these coping strategies, they develop. But what it does, it becomes predictive. That's what the mind does, because it is so incredible. So rather than, let's take an example of someone who's experiencing violence in the home. So in the first instance, you experience the violence, you look for something to cope with, you go to alcohol, you find the soothe. Now, the next time, the brain doesn't want you to experience the violence. So the next time, when you get in the house, you see the presence of the person who commits the violence. And the brain's like, whoa, red flags, blah, blah, blah. We don't want to go there, da, da, da. So you might go to alcohol. Let's have a glass now. The next time you come in, the brain is predicting even further. It's like, oh, right, now the shoes are at the front door, but they're not on the shelf. This is often a precursor. Let's go and escape now. And then the next time, so your brain gets so predictive that it introduces the coping strategy earlier and earlier in the cycle, to the point where we are engaging with it, yet the intent of the aforementioned crisis might be miles away, but we don't know why. And that's because the brain is so good at preempting stress and crisis. And this is how a lot of people get so knee-deep in their coping strategy, yet it's a million miles from what brought it on in the first place. And then it becomes everyday behavior. Then it becomes, do you know what? It's 3 p.m. This is my start time. It becomes da-da-da. But it's totally unassociated with what happened in the first place.
Yeah.
Now we can do the very same in reverse. And that's what you experience, Naroop. You know, you have consciously brought something in to calm your mind, focus your attention. Your body acknowledges this, really centers you. It brings you peace. It does all these things. So at a moment where you're triggered, your brain's like, no, this is our go-to.
I knew you'd be a great guest when I was on a Zoom call with you, and you said, I hear you, Naroop, I hear you, right? Because I said, this is a man who's done the work, because he understands the right language, right?
Okay,
Because it's
okay.
important for me, because listening is an important part of conversation, of being understood. And only someone who has really put the time to get to know themselves and been in the process of growth will understand the kind of language you use to allow someone to feel heard and feel safe. So I love that we're having this type of conversation. But people do know you as a footballer, as a professional footballer, and that was a major part of your life. And I know the stresses that come with that, you know. And what I'd love to touch on a little bit is about some of these suicide attempts that occurred while you were at the height of your career.
Yeah.
And I just find that really fascinating, because to someone who's not in the game or has fame or success on that level, they would think that you've achieved every young man's dream. You're playing for a top club, you know, you get to do it all day, you train, you know, you get fans adore you, people, you know, you get recognition. What could you possibly want to escape from? So I would love to touch on that
Okay.
and just get an understanding of that Clarke for a bit, because it helps me to understand the Clarke that's sitting in front of me even better.
Okay. The Clarke that attempted to take his own life repeatedly. First time at 21 years of age. Second, third, fourth, fifth, all between the ages of 33 and 36. On retirement. I really feel for that young man, you know.
Mm.
I really feel for that young man. Yeah, he was living his dream to play football. In doing so, like we talked about earlier, didn't know himself, didn't value himself, didn't believe that he was achieving anything, had no self-esteem, no understanding of his value as a human without football. And the scenarios around the suicide attempts, first one at 21, I can't tell you it in isolation, Naroop. So to understand why I attempted to take my own life at 21, you got to understand that what brought me there. You know, you've got a kid from a council estate in Preston, black father, white mother, so which means conflict. Not in amongst themselves, although you know there was, I'm trying to be. There was violence in that relationship in our home, you know, and not that it was acceptable, but it was present in the 70s, in the 80s. But more than that, outside the house, Dad fought people to walk down the street with my mum because he was stealing one of our white women, you know. And that was the dynamic in which I grew up. No money. Dad was hard-working, earnest, but couldn't get a job because he's a 6'5" black guy in Preston. You know, no one gives him the time of day. He works for the local church for food parcels to feed his kids. Dad fathered me at 17, and at that point had taken on, gotten together with my mum, who already had 2 kids. So 17-year-old father of 3, trying to get out of the life because in Preston, he was a naughty man. He was a wrong'un, and he was an enforcer and a leader in that world. But he wanted to do the best by his kids, so he moved us to the outskirts of Preston, council estate, heavily white, but he's trying to do his best for his kids. Now, in that environment, Dad models to me what it is to be a man. You know, as a kid, I take that in. It's hunter, gatherer, protector, disciplinarian, authoritarian, back straight, chest out, head down, you deal with your business, all of that stuff imbued in me. And that's compounded by everything around me, we're talking 80s life, Rocky Balboa, and all of that, all of that is what I see, what it is to be a man. Now, because Dad can't provide for us financially, and that cuts him off at his knees in his identity, he locks himself in his room, he smokes weed, large parts of my childhood. I don't see him. I see him when I'm good, and he comes out, well done, son, well done, Buzzy. Or I see him when I'm bad. Like I said, hand the size of Africa, boom. I don't want to feel the back of that hand when I'm bad. So I strive to be good. I need to be good because I need the person who emerges from that room to be ruffling my afro, not cuffing my head. Compounded with that, and at the same time, I've got Mum, who's my love. She's my consistent love. And I wet the bed until I'm 17, 18 years of age. And I'm talking every day up until 15 years of age. We got no money, council estate, in this. Every single morning, I quite literally piss my mum off. We've gone to doctors, we've got plastic, sheets on the bedding, we're trying alarms, Clarke again. She's throwing my mattress in the front garden. The shame of drying my mattress out in the front garden, the fear because Mum's furious with me when I leave the house. When I leave that house, I have to do everything in my power to redeem myself. When I come back in that door after school or wherever I've been, I must have something to show my mum 10 out of 10 marks, scored these goals, won this, won that, to win. Here you go, Mum, look what I did. Do you still love me? Can I have your love back? So all of that creates this little human who's desperate to gain that paternal approval, to win his mum's love back. Tie that in with a heavily white council estate where we walk out and I don't make friends, Naroop. I've got to win them. Because I step out there, they're like, oh, look at your hair, what happens? What happens when it gets wet? I'm like, don't touch a man's throat. So I've got to win these people over. So I do it by being what they need me to be. I'll be the quickest, I'll be the fastest, the best, I'll be the funniest, I'll be the most mischievous. So this is me working hard for friends. Get to school, do the same. I'm going to be the cleverest for you. I'm going to be the naughtiest for you. I'm going to be the sportiest for you. All of this makes me a people pleaser. It makes my value dependent on what you think of me, and it to my mind, what I've done, what I've earned, what I've produced is the reason for why you love me. Tie that all in with the fact that my old man used to play football himself. He had trials at Preston, he had England trials, broke his ankle, a lot of racism at the time, ended up playing Preston in district leagues. And I used to watch him as a kid, on the sideline, the Merv the Swerve. He was brilliant. So this is the one time I get quality time with my dad. Then I start playing at 12, which is quite late. But Dad and Granddad come and watch me play football every Saturday. All of that, that ties in to why football was so important to me. I was realizing Dad's dream, I was realizing my dream, I was getting positive affirmation, I was getting treated different at school, I was winning Mum's love back. It made me valuable. So when I get the opportunity to go and sign for Blackpool at 16, I'm jumping at the chance, And I go there, £27.50 a week. I was like, oh wow, dude, that's incredible. How can they pay so? I was loaded. It's a kid who never had 10, 2 acres to rub together. I loved it. £27.50 a week, playing football, not professionally, as an apprentice, Dad and Granddad proud. And then 17 years of age, I get to make my debut at Wrexham, away at Wrexham. I'm a centre half, and I walk out there. I'm not 10.5 stone, wet through, But I walk out there with 21 hairy, backsided men, Naroop. In old Division 2, which is now League 1, they're on £400-500 a week. They're going to smash each other for a £50 win bonus. They beat me up. 2-0 down at half time. Both goals were my fault. go to the gaffer at half time. Gaffer, what do I do? He's like, don't worry, son. You can't be any worse in the second half. So, cheers, boss. But we win the game 4-3. You know, I'm on the bus. I'm like, oh, we won, but I was shy. Have I just wasted this chance? Saturday comes along and I'm still in the side. We're playing Carlisle United at Bloomfield Road. 91st minute, 1-1. Mum, dad, granddad in the stands. First game my mum's ever been to, you know. Dad and granddad been to everything. First game mum's been to. Corner whipped in, split on at front post. There's me, yours truly, diving header, scoring a 91st minute winner. Mate, I go herring over to... Veins popping out where I didn't know veins existed. And this moment, I can't articulate it to you. I don't know, the ecstasy, the euphoria, the validation, it was everything to me in that moment. Repaying dad and granddad. These guys, they would not eat so that they could ferry me around the county in search of this dream. You know, that's a reality. First game my mum's ever been to. And that's the moment where I felt the power of football for what it could do for me, in my world, in my life, I was worth it in that moment. And I saw it on everyone's faces. That's what football meant to me.
Dude, I was with you the whole time. I could imagine everything you described. That was so beautifully articulated. But it just shows how far you've come to understand everything you had to go through. How have you been able to break it down? And is that through therapy? Is it through self-reflection to understand everything you've just articulated? Because most people can't.
Well, the thing is, it can only come through therapy in a safe space when you're at that point where I went through the therapy at a point where I was done. I was at the point 30, it wasn't even at 34, it was at 36, 37 years of age. I was at change or die. They were my choices. I was utterly exhausted. I was fed up with life. I tried to leave 5 times and it weren't working. And I was telling my family, I can't tell you. You know, when you are such a people pleaser, where that person's opinion of you is fundamental to your worth, to be sat in a bed and for your mum to come to you and say, how are you today? And you say, Mum, I don't want to be here today. I've had enough of life and I can't guarantee that I'm going to be here tomorrow. In fact, don't come back tomorrow, Mum. I'm not going to be here. When your wife comes in, which is my ex-wife as it happens no, not initially. In 2014, it was my ex-wife. You know, when she came in, I was like, don't come back tomorrow. Don't bring the kids. I'm not going to be here. But even by 2017, I'm back in that psychiatric hospital and I've met my wife now. And I say to her, don't come back. I said, I'm really sorry. She was pregnant at the time. I'm really sorry. I'm not going to be here when that child's born. Do you know what place you have to be in to say that to people? When you are so bent on their opinion being your value. And that I can see it replicated through my life, you know. From Blackpool, I got sold to QPR. Went down to QPR, which was huge for me. You know, went from 500 quid a week to 2.5 grand a week. Inordinate amount of money. Playing in front of 19, 20,000, playing on the telly. I get an England call up, under 21s. You know, at Middlesbrough, 3 lines on my chest, singing the national anthem. My mum, dad and granddad in tears in the stand. This is insane. Start knocking about with these guys at some of your halts, actually. I'm sure I saw Nemash Kensington Roof Gardens on a Tuesday night. I'm like, yeah, I'll have something.
Yeah.
You know, these are the trappings that come with my proficiency. This is amazing. And then play a night match against Fulham, West London derby, and going for a tackle with Rufus Brevitt, and boom, snap my ACL, LCL, pop the TS, ITB, rotate the fibula head, dislodge the nerve, rip the hamstring off. Right knee. Went to see the specialist, Andy Williams, Mr. Andy Williams. He said, Clarke, your knee's buggered. was like, thanks, doc. So he said, no. He said, seriously, you won't play football again. You'll need to walk with a stick. He said, but I'll do my best. You know, I've just tried to articulate what football meant to me. You know, football was the reason why it's the reason why I existed. It's the reason why I was getting the love, attention, why my dreams were coming true. And then boom, it was just gone like that. And so I had an op and I sat in my flat. I had a 2-bed flat in Acton and I drank myself into oblivion because I couldn't find an answer to this. You know, just talking about what it is to be a man, you know, be that provider, that solution finder, all of that. And when I couldn't find it, I reverted to what I'd learned and seen.
So you lost your identity, right?
Lost everything I lost my identity, my worth, my value. And so I took an overdose, 56 Co-Proxamol, washed them down with a can of Carlin, waited to die. But I was found by my girlfriend at the time, whipped me to hospital, put my stomach, and I'm alive. But there's no entryway to services or anything like that. This is 2001. Physio discharges me from hospital. Says, don't do that again, Clarke. That was stupid. And I revert to type. I'm admonished like a naughty boy. I'm sorry, I won't do it. I don't tell my mum and dad because they're still living in a council house in Preston. I can't tell them that, you know, me, Billy Big Balls, my life's not all that, so I don't. And we just pack it off, pretend it never happened. So there's the inception of my depression. I don't know it at the time. I only know it through therapy, through going deep, through understanding, you know, where my trauma-informed depression started. But the behaviors, they started when I was 4 or 5 years old. You know, I have no doubt that no matter what career I would have walked into, there would have come a point where I would have been in existential crisis because I had no worth, I had no value. My currency was in pleasing others. And if I hadn't been able to meet that at some point, some juncture, I would have taken this downward trajectory. I don't believe it would have been as immediate as that and as catastrophic, but it would have happened. Come out of that and I do everything in my power to get back to football, but I do everything physical, don't do anything psychological and emotional. And that means that I go on, not only do I come back, I go on play 500 games. I get, you know, win promotion with QPR, Leeds United, Watford, playing the Premier League with them, go to Burnley, playoff final, Championship playoff final, Wembley Stadium, 90,000 people. I'm man of the match. You know, it's incredible. Get to play in the Premier League, beat reigning champions at Turf Moor, Man United. It's phenomenal. I carry on doing all the other stuff that I feel is necessary. You know, get a degree in broadcasting. I'm chairman of the PFA. I produce documentaries for the BBC. I win Countdown. Hey, I got a countdown teapot, Naroop. You know, but through all of this, cyclically and repeatedly, every 2 or 3 months, I'm crashing.
Firstly, did anybody in your network, your friends, did they know these attempts were happening in your life? And secondly, what would you have needed to happen at that time for you to feel your sense of worth? Like, what were you craving that would have made you feel like, actually, I have got worth? Because what you've listed is incredible. That's like on anyone's life sheet, that's success stamped all over it. What was it that you were craving? Because your parents were supporting you, right? You had a partner, you had children. What was Clarke inside asking for that he wasn't getting?
Because I had no internal framework about who I am, about why I am here and I have value in and of myself. I was seeking constant validation. Constant validation. I needed to be graded. I needed to be approved of. And when you go into football, it's the perfect environment for that. Because you not only do you have opportunity Tuesday, Saturday to be graded, it's utterly irrelevant what I think about how I played or how I trained. The only opinions that matter are the coaches, the managers, the fans, the chairperson, the media. They're all the people who impose my judgment and my worth on me. And when you put so much weight on that, it's
Is that why there's so much depression with celebrities? Because I know people in media, right? And you actually realize when you talk to them, wow, this person is really insecure. Like, they can come across really, really confident, but deep down, it's fragile. This is a symptom I think a lot of people suffer from, right?
Yeah.
Give me
very much
validation,
so.
and there's a scale. Last time, level 1 of validation was enough. Now I need level 2.
Mm-hmm.
No, level 2 is not enough. Level 3. And where does it stop?
It doesn't stop if that area in which you're operating is your livelihood. You know, I was living the dream. Yes. Very quickly, that dream is paying my bills.
Yeah.
Very quickly, that dream is feeding my children. Very quickly, everything that I present front of house is absolutely dependent on me delivering on what people see as the dream. So what becomes a dream, and I achieve the dream and I'm living the dream, all of a sudden becomes my job. And that performance that is good, bad, or indifferent, and people will grade, and and then they're like, oh yeah, so let's see what happens on Tuesday. They can just crack on. To me, I'm like, well, if I don't get picked on Tuesday, then I don't get paid. And if I don't continually get picked, then I'm not going to get a new contract. And if I don't get a new contract, then I can't pay my mortgage. And if I can't pay my mortgage, then I can't. And the cycle of impact, it's all condensed in that one performance. I need to be good there to give me an opportunity to be good again. And I need to be able to be good again because I need to get paid so that I can feed my kids. And it's all condensed in this environment where...
But is that the same with validation? Because as I'm getting older and I'm questioning things, I was the same. I needed constant validation in my life. But there's one thing doing the thing, there's another thing doing the thing and getting recognized, right? So if you could still pay all the bills, you could still play football, but imagine you were selected for the next match, but no one gave you a pat on the back. No one said, well done, mate. Would that still be enough? Because you can still pay the bills, but some people need the validation on top of it. It's not just about the money earned. It's about the recognition received as well. The reason I say this is my brother's famous singer, and he survived in the game for 20 odd years and just stayed consistent. But the thing I've noticed about him, and as I study him, is he's detached. He puts his music out, he does a performance, but he's detached from what people think. And that's, I think, naturally was his way of being from young. And that's kept him really balanced because he doesn't care. He'll always say to me, Naroop, who cares, man? Who cares what they say? He's get these comments. Who cares? And I don't think anyone taught him that. I just thought that's how he was. I think that's how he is, but it's kept him going. And I've realized that he'll do the thing. Doesn't care what people think. And I'm like, hey, that's why he's been able to stay so long. That's why he's so liked. And that's why hasn't fallen off. Because he's detached from it. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And I was the total opposite of that for many, many years. That's why when social media started, it was developed and came to the fore in the middle of my career. Oh my gosh, that was so destructive. You know, I'd come off the pitch and I'd have 1,000 messages delivered in real time telling me how shite I was. Or maybe I was doing well, you know, maybe I had a good performance. But still, when you're in that need of approval, I could have 99 great messages, but the one bad one is where my thoughts anchor. And then it becomes my life's mission to convince that person over the next 3 days through DMs and back and forth that, oh no, I'm a good person, you know, I try my best and all the rest of it. And, oh gosh, that can be all pervasive. Or again,
Right? It's horrible.
it's born out of not knowing who you are and your worth.
Yes.
You know, it's
It's such a powerful concept. I'm so glad we're having this conversation because I literally put up a video about it last week.
okay.
I literally put up a video saying, when we meet people, the first question we ask them, what do you do?
Yeah.
Really, the right question is, who are you? And you see the difference in the answer. And that's why I love this point, because I'm in this place of understanding identity, understanding purpose, understanding self-worth. I was the same way. I was filmmaker, photographer. And I was so attached to that. And if anything, my business partner was actually like, Ruby, you're not just this thing. Who gives a shit? You're not just this thing. But it was all that I knew.
Yeah.
The minute I'm not recognized from that, or being that, I'm left with this question. Who am I?
Yeah.
If I'm not directing big TV ads and shooting billboards, I've got no worth. I need people to know I am something. Why do I need people to know? Why do I care so much what people think about me? Why does it matter? And then finding that you are more than enough. Just being alive. Just being alive is more than enough. Then you think of the creation. And I always bring it back to my daughter. I made this beautiful girl who's 10 years old, who just smiles every day. You cannot do anything greater than that. You cannot do anything greater than that. And I haven't answered the question. If someone said to me, Naroop, who are you? I can list attributes that I think I am. But then I always bring it back to my one goal, one purpose, true purpose. I'm a dad. I'm my daughter's dad. And I've made that obligation by creating her, and will raise her the best I can. That then informs every decision I make and how I show up in this world. From how I treat people, to the kind of business I build, to how I act, how I treat my body, the food that I eat, the type of car that I drive, because that needs to be safe for her. Everything, whether I go out, whether I drink too much, dependent on her. And it's not to say I have to just live for her, but it creates a purpose that nothing else can. Like, this whole organization is for her. It's for her. I've always said I want my daughter's partner, if she ends up marrying a man, to say, man, your dad, I've watched some of your dad's stuff. It really helped me today. And then she come back and say, Dad, you know, he was saying how one of your videos really helped him, or he's tapped into one of your meetup groups, or he went to one of your conferences. Can you think as a man any greater feeling than that? Then it lives with her forever. I'm gone, and is still there. That for me is, when they talk about legacy and purpose and being and who are you, can't think of anything greater.
That's powerful. Very powerful.
I can't think of anything greater. I've tried. I question, but I can leave 2 million, 3 million, 5 million in the bank for her. She won't want that. She just wants to know my dad's a good man.
Yeah, that's powerful. Powerful, Naroop. And I hear you, because I was blessed to become a grandfather for the first time.
Wow.
Just 3 months ago. I have 5 children and now a granddaughter. And the amazing thing about new life, it never gets any less miraculous. You know, I sat there hovering like a bad smell outside the maternity ward, and when I was able to go in and embrace this new life, my daughter's daughter, it was the same feeling that I had when I held my daughter, and my my understanding of the beauty and the power and the importance of that is nowhere near what it is now at this age. You know, I fathered my eldest daughter at 19 when she was born, 18 when she was conceived, where on reflection, I was just a boy myself. You know,
What was that like at that time? Were you scared, anxious, excited?
no, just obnoxious, not obnoxious, kind of. uh, the way that I was stepping into the world, I didn't understand the magnitude of it.
Mm.
What I did know was that I wanted to do it right. And that drew in a lot of comparisons with my own upbringing, with what dad and mum did for me. So, I mean, the circumstances with how my daughter was conceived wasn't planned. It wasn't according to the Christian beliefs that I held and hold and all the rest of it. And I'd actually broken up with her mum for a short period of time, and then she came back and said I'm pregnant, and I was like, wow, 18, just signed my first professional contract at Blackpool. And so in my heart, I wanted to do it right. I was like, to do it right, we need to get married, we need to move in together, we need to do all these things. And so my heart wanted to do that and took steps to do that. I proposed to Elise, and we moved in together. The reality was that I was a young kid, a bit of arrogance, who was chasing his dream, wanted to have his cake and eat it, you know? And so when I got this move down to London, again, this is that point of reflection where I've got to be brutally honest about my motivations, At that point, at 20 years of age, I didn't want to be a young dad.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a footballer. And I wanted to go without restriction wherever football took me. So when I moved down to London, I separated from Fran's mum, and I thought that me sending them money every month, a lot of money every month, was me doing my job as a father, because I didn't have any money, so she's not going to want for anything. Yeah, well, it's amazing what we can tell ourselves to justify our actions, and at 20 years of age, like, yeah, she'll be right. That's me doing my job as a father. I've never hit her, I've never shouted at her. She's going to have loads of money. It's brilliant, And then I go off chasing my dream. The reality of it is I abdicated my responsibilities as a father, So when I do go down to London and then I get this knee injury and football's potentially over for me, not only have I lost all that identity as a footballer and my value as that, I've also lost that notion of me being a father to my daughter. Even though it was warped and only in finance, that was what I had lined up as me being a dad to her. So that loss of identity and that feeling of failure was massively compounded, because not only had I physically abandoned her, now I'm going to financially abandon her as well. So that all plays out. I'm alive, and I come back, but still in my head, sending money is me being a dad. And then, I meet my ex-wife, we do get married, and we have 2 children, and I've evolved a little bit by then. I'm in my mid-20s, and again, I raised them according to my values, in that I will never strike my children. I don't want them to live in fear of me. I want them to make independent choices. It's good. But still, I'm heavily dependent on materialism. And it was the same with my relationship with my ex-wife. If anything went wrong, then I had to buy my way out of it, or I had to win my way out of it. So, and it got to the point where presents were cars.
Yeah.
You know, you got a car for Mother's Day. I'm like, who does that? You know, just a stupid, not stupid, but you know, someone who's struggling with what a relationship should be. More suicide attempts, and I start being honest with myself, and I see that relationship with my ex-wife isn't right for me. The only reason I was staying in there at that point at the end was for my children.
Mm.
And in my head, I've been telling myself for 2 or 3 years, when the kids are 18, I'm going to leave. You know, I'm going to leave and I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And when everything's in here, it destroyed me.
Yeah.
You know, there was a helplessness, a futility, a why am I doing this, that led to more outbursts of ridiculous behavior that I felt shameful for and all the rest. And I need to feed this back into me wetting the bed as a kid. What wetting the bed as a kid did for me, it put me in a redemption cycle.
Okay.
Every day I left the house, I pissed off my mum, so I had to redeem myself and bring something home. And that left, you know, we talked about what subconsciously embeds in. I lived not just for approval, but also for win, loss, success, fail.
Yeah.
And I needed both.
Yeah.
I needed to fail to redeem myself and win someone back.
Yeah.
And so middle ground was horrendous for me. It was anathema. So in that relationship, even when I've now got 3 children, if things were all right, I'm incredibly uncomfortable.
That's so interesting. It's almost like a toxic relationship when you're with a partner who's had trauma when they're younger, and they only feel comfortable when they're at the bottom or the top.
Yes.
If it's stable, like that's not right. I either need to be fighting or we need to be making up and you know, having mad sex and like that
it.
feeling. I need that feeling. And yeah, that's so interesting.
So when I was in the middle bit,
Yeah.
I would, if I couldn't see a way to win and achieve the high,
Wow.
I had to contrive a failure.
Wow.
So I would, and I knew I would mess up. Like, right, I'm going out this weekend. And my wife be ringing about, no, I'll leave that. I'll just make up on Tuesday, Wednesday. So that I'm still getting that cycle of behavior because it meets my needs.
But this ties back into this idea of understanding yourself, because you can check yourself now, can't you? And say, I know where I am. I know why I'm doing this. I know what, you know, obviously you've worked through it now, but with that knowledge.
Even more than that,
Yeah.
I don't need that
You don't need it
anymore.
Yeah. I love that, man.
I don't need that cycle anymore. I can operate it in challenge when things are all right and when things are amazing. Because the way that I operate now, I'm present for them all. I'm present for them all, and we will get through and meet the needs of those. So but when it comes to parenting, when it comes to fatherhood, you know, it's evolved again because now I met my wife, who is, you said soulmate. She's my human. This is my human. Bizarrely, we connected. We when I come out of psych hospital, right? So I'm fresh out of psychiatric hospital, and I've got this woman who I'd met a couple of years prior when I was chairman of the PFA. We were doing an event for Kick It Out, swapped business cards. Nothing came of it. She'd sent me a couple of emails. She would send them sporadically, you know, like maybe every 6 or 8 months, just asking about this. But I was, for some reason, I'd never responded, you know, just been happening in the background. And then I come out of psych hospital and I get an email from this woman talking about Pavlov's dog. And I'm like, just, I don't even know what this woman wants. So I'll tell you what, bite the bullet. Look, let's get together, have a brew. We'll see what each other are working on, and if there's any synergy, you know, we can take that forward. So let's get together. So at this time, I'm living in York. She's living in Acton. I'm like, tell you what, I'm coming quite a bit. Let's have some lunch. And then I look at the train times. Like, right, the train times say, let's just have some dinner. I'll meet you in St Albans. We'll have some dinner. Blah 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 blah. So we go and have some dinner at Lussman's in St Albans. And mate, within four and a half minutes, I'm like, you're my human.
Wow.
It was just her energy. I believe in spirit. You know, in spirit and soul, we just connected. There was a freedom. There was an openness. and we just got on, and that business meeting, we just talked through the night. We drank the hotel out of sparkling water. They had to kick us out, it was just utterly amazing. And so I was like, right, we went on a date after that. On that second meeting, which was our first date, if you ask Carrie, she'll tell us that they were both dates, but we met, and I brought her my psychiatric report.
Wow.
I was like, look, I really like you. It's like, we're 37 years of age, and you need to know what you're getting into if you want to, you want to have another date. Have a read of that. If you can work with that, because that's me right now, then I'd love for us to go on another date.
Wow.
So we had dinner. She read the psychiatric report. She called me back to set up another date. We went on another date, and I brought her my countdown teapot because she loved tea. So I was like, look, I want this to be a gift to you. Just it was almost like dowry, just a statement of intent, and it was my way of saying thank you. I think for her still to be interested in me. Please note, at this point, I've not done any serious therapy work.
Okay, I was going to ask.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that was me still buying, giving for, and then I immediately regretted it because the week after that, I asked her to come in and move in with me and bring my teapot back.
Did she?
But,
she move in?
She did, yeah. Within about 2 months, Carrie moved up to York and sat in with me and moved in with me. But I was starting my therapeutic journey then.
Did you do that for your own accord? Did you say to yourself, I need therapy, or were you kind of pushed? Or was it part of
it was part of
your
my change or die. When I came out of psychiatric hospital, they introduced to me cognitive analytical therapy. I'd never heard of this before. And to my mind, that it was something I'd never tried, and it gave me hope. In fact, I've actually got the timeline wrong there, Naroop. When I met Carrie and she moved up with me, I'd just come out of psychiatric hospital the first time, and there was still 2 years before I'd started proactively engaging and getting well. So Carrie moved in with me, and I proposed to her, and we got married within like 12. How long was it? Within 15 months, we were engaged, we were married. And through that time, even though I was on meds, it's the first time I'd taken meds properly. That's all I was doing. So when I was experiencing challenge and stuff like that, I was just getting more meds and more meds and more meds until 2 years' time. The last time I was actively suicidal, that was when I started therapy. So I go through therapy then, and I start to understand who I am. We've now got our first child, and we're going to have our second. And this is when I really start to unpick what it is to be a dad. This is when I am deliberately and consciously working on my relationship with my eldest, who I'd abandoned for 7 or 8 years of her life, who I'd reintroduced more on a friend basis than a father basis. And we have a very special, very unique relationship now. And I verbalize that, I acknowledge it with her. There's, we do have a different relationship. How we speak to each other is not how, the middle children and I speak to each other, which isn't how our youngest children and I
How's it
speak to
different?
each
You're more friends?
Yeah, we have. I had to salvage that relationship and came to Fran as an outsider who became her friend. And as we reconnected and bonded, I was giving her fatherly advice, but not from a father capacity. I am your father. And I will give advice, but I can't dictate to you. I can only share my learnings and I advise you on. I have preferences, but you make your own decisions. And
But is that the right approach at that age?
well, at that age, yes, yeah.
Because as an adult, I say to my dad, I'm 45. The way that you father me now is different. That than how he would, and he does, is different than when I was younger, because he can't tell me what to do, right?
Of
But
course.
and he shouldn't. But he should be there in advice and to guide. And as long as you always respect your father, you're gonna take his word and listen to what he says, because you understand he's been on this planet longer than you have. But
That's allowing the evolution, and the growth of your child. There is a point where it becomes adult to adult.
yeah,
And in that, you can still retain, the father-son, but on an adult to adult
Yeah.
perspective. And that can be quite a difficult thing to manage. But what the biggest evolution in that was the fact that with Fran, my eldest, and with Marley and Honey for, until they were 8, 9 years of age, I'd always thought it was the stuff. It's the stuff and the presents and the holidays. Whereas through my therapy, unpicking my experience and what I've given to them thus far, and then bringing them in, fatherhood isn't the stuff. Yes, there are core fundamentals. You want to feed, clothe, house, your family. But what your children need from you is your presence. And that doesn't have to be time. It doesn't have to be, I'm there all day, every day. I mean, when you're with your kids, you are present.
and for fathers, I think especially when you have a daughter, is presence in a certain way. Like, I know my daughter will want me there because me being there makes her feel safe. Because she's 10, right? She doesn't necessarily need me to engage in everything with her. Dad's there. I'm good. I can be free and do whatever I need to do. He's there. And it's a different thing than a mother would be. She might want the mother to be involved in a bit more stuff, might share some bits. I know she needs me there as the rock, the protector.
Okay.
Because I remember once last summer, we had a paddling pool, and I was filling it up, and she's put her costume on, she's come down, and she's looking around. She goes, "Dad, there's all flies in here." And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You could take them out, aren't you?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, I thought so, because I didn't think Dad would let me go into a pool where there's flies in there."
Haha, I like it.
So she's understanding Dad's
Yeah.
going to keep me safe.
Yeah,
And I thought, wow, look where her mind is going.
yeah.
It's a powerful notion.
It's
right?
very powerful.
And you're right, no money, no gifts or anything that can replace that presence. So when you said that, I'm like, yes, I could see that.
And it's different with each child.
Yeah.
But what that stands for, that presence. Some children will need you to engage with them in that.
Yeah.
Some need you to just be.
Yeah.
Some,
I've only got one daughter, so
know,
yeah.
And it's understanding your children and what they need from you. I think the reason why this is so clear, abundantly clear to me, is for large parts of my life, I never understood my children, or why what I was doing wasn't enough, or because I was acting out in either drink or in gambling, especially when gambling came to the phone, my children were an inconvenience to me.
Wow.
When gambling came to your phone and it wasn't geographically located anymore, but I'm still hiding it. I'm trying to, I'm staying in the day room or whatever it is. I'm trying to hide upstairs. I'm trying to get a little 5 minutes to do this, that, or the other. And the kids are like, "Oh, Dad, can you?" And I'm like, "Oh, what do you want now?" What they want is me. What they want is a bit of time, bit of connection with. But they're an inconvenience, mate. I felt such shame when I acknowledged that. And then in all of that, our kids model more than they take instruction. It's not what you say to your kids, it's what do you do. When you're trying to teach your children respect and manners, etc., you don't tell them to say please and thank you. You say it.
Yeah.
How do you engage with your partner in around the house? My wife and I, we show so much gratitude to each other. And I don't just mean for, "Oh, thank you for that present." I mean, hey, baby, I said it the other day. Was it the other day? Was it yesterday? Let me think about this. I mean, Carol will say that in the small, "Oh, thank you for taking that bin out. Thank you for," things that we kind of know are our roles, but show gratitude in the small things. I said, oh, thank you for tidying the clothes rails, because that's made it much easier for when I hoover in between them. And then off the back of that, our youngest went and tidied her own clothes rail. And she came down to me about an hour later and said, Dad, it should be easier for you when you hoover my room next because I've tidied my clothes rail. And,
Wow.
it's not what you say to them, it's what you model for them. What are you doing? And
Have you forgiven yourself for that shame?
I've worked through it a lot. Have I forgiven myself? I am fully accepting that the choices that I made weren't from the knowledge and position that I have now. I was doing the best at the time with the knowledge and tools that I had available. As my knowledge has grown, as I engage with my tools, I have changed. And it doesn't take away from my responsibility for the impact of those decisions. So there's the balance.
That is true understanding. Like, the way you've articulated it is what I've heard over and over again from people who have accepted and understood and moved past it, because they realize that I'm not that person anyway. And I did the best I could at the time with what I had.
I did.
And that's forgiveness. Yeah. But even for people who've done you wrong, they did their best at what they knew. That's where their level of consciousness was. They were doing the best with the knowledge and the learnings and the way they were raised and their experience that they could. They treated me like that because of that, and I forgive them. That's okay.
I think it's fundamentally important, especially if you're going to go on this exploration and talk to the people involved.
Yeah.
There was a watershed moment speaking with my parents about how they, raised us. And I have to say, I love and respect you, and I'm so proud of what you did for us growing up. I know you did the best you could with what you had, and there were consequences to that. That impacted how I saw the world, how everyone saw the world, and it'd be great if we can speak about that. And once you take away that blame and judgment, we just need the information. Right? If you can work with things and take the information as opposed to responding to the emotion, you will grow exponentially quicker.
I love that. So as we come to the close of this conversation,
no danger. Is it over already?
It's like, dude,
wow.
it's been really beautiful. And I'm a big believer, like you said, about soul and spirit, and the timing for me is everything. That this conversation happened in this way at this time, because identity for me is a massive thing right now that I'm learning to understand more about myself, but also in others. Because I want to understand people. I'm working with people. And it's interesting, me and Amit, my business partner, we worked with celebrities our whole life. And Amit made this shift quicker than me, actually. He would say, me and Naroop work with celebrities, but it's normal people that are the most fascinating. And I used to hear it in the beginning. I'm like, do I think that? I think celebrities are pretty cool. I didn't say it. And then at one moment it clicked, actually. And it was when we started doing this. He's right. Real people are the most fascinating, because you get to understand them. And we're helping people. We're not helping celebrities through what we're building, and we're helping people, right? And identity is a massive thing. And I'll ask you, who are you now then? Like, how would you describe who is Clarke? Take away the titles, take away all that. Because I'm not saying you have the right answer, but I'm just intrigued. Like, how would you describe yourself to somebody? A man who's done a lot of work, been through a lot, been through more than most people could ever think about. How would you describe who am I?
Who am I?
Well, you don't have to if you don't know how to.
I don't. I'm not going to stray too far from the opening gambit. I am a father, a husband, a son, brother, and friend who is deliberately well. I turn up every day and I give what I've got with authenticity and respect.
And that work that you do to show up like that, it's daily work, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's daily work. It isn't. And this is one thing that I've realized: you could be in a beautiful place, but you got to make sure you keep that steering wheel straight. It's practices that keeps you there, right? Meditations, because I know what I need to keep myself straight is my checkpoints along the ways. Is a meditation. It's association. It's protecting my energy. Making sure certain people don't come into my life who can drain my energy,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to, this path that I'm going down, I want to stay straight, because we're all flawed fundamentally. We have to be.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone can veer off again. And so to show up like you did, it's daily routines, right? Daily practices.
There are two things to that. You know, nobody's firing at 100% every day.
No.
It doesn't happen.
No.
And to be acceptant of that, it's been hard coming from elite sport.
Yeah.
110%, fail's not an option, all of that, bang, bang, bang. Where a personal best will never be good enough if it's 10 seconds slower than the person next to you. You know, so to be your best isn't enough. But when we're talking about this, in every single day, I will give what I've got, being cognizant of the fact that I have to look after myself. So if all I've got today is 70%, that's okay, because I'm going to preserve myself so that I can give all that I've got tomorrow. But it does mean that I have to fill my cup. Now, to be in this place of self-awareness and continue being able to give what I've got, you're 100% right. It's daily what I have to do with and for myself at certain times. Coming from that point of crisis, some people think that you develop your things in crisis and that's what you do for the rest of your life. It's not true. We evolve, we grow, our needs change. Look at my knee injury, right? That was an absolute physical crisis where I had to go into hospital, have an operation, take certain medications, and that was the point of crisis. Now, when I'm discharged from hospital and the care of the surgeon, I'm not match fit, Naroop. I can't just go in and play football. I'm just not injured anymore. So I have to go through a set of exercises to work on this knee, build the muscles around it, ensure that it's ready, build up my fitness and my wider body. That will take this exercise and period of time. It's not what I did in crisis, but it's building on making sure that's better to get match fit. That's when I can play in the first team, because I'm match fit. Once I'm match fit, I don't do this stuff that I did in hospital. I don't do this stuff that I did in the middle. I'm doing maintenance. It might be a little bit of this. It might be one thing from back there, but it's maintenance that I do every day to stay match fit and be available for the game.
Love that.
That's what our health and well-being is. So what I did in crisis to stabilize myself, I had to change that when I was stable because I needed to get well. So in my wellness, I did my things from in crisis to get me stable, and I did different things from stable to get me well. And now I have my routines that maintain my wellness, and mine are quite similar to yours. I have to anchor myself every morning and every evening, but with that quiet time and reflection. I have to communicate any emotional spikes in the day with the right person in my counsel. And I have to make sure that I eat Nutella ice cream.
That's a non-negotiable.
It is. That's me. Non-negotiable.
Man, you know what? I really love this. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. We didn't go too deep when we had our Zoom call because I wanted to get to know you properly here. And I'm glad I did that because I've learned a lot from you, man. I really, really have. In terms of, you know, we all have gone through stuff, but your journey is incredible because I love the reflection, looking back at it and understanding it, right? And through understanding it, accepting it, moving past it, acknowledging it, you can move forward and create this life that you've created now and the person you are now. And the big word for me in life is acceptance.
Yes.
So with the Dad Project, our acronym for Dad is dialogue. Talk about things, talk about how you feel, acceptance and awareness, right? Be accept who you are, but be aware of your patterns and the direction, we can help give direction to where you need to go, right? Because once you've had this, once you've spoken, once you've got awareness of where you are, then you can move forward in the direction you want to go through.
Yes, you can.
And I think this whole conversation beautifully articulates that. So thank you for your time, man. Thank you for coming here, and I appreciate it. And I look forward to what we can do in the future together through events and conversations and more work. And I really admire the work that you're doing as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Naroop. Bless you, my friend.
Thank you.